Well, good morning again, YouTube. All right, guys, this morning I ran up to our local hardware store and I grabbed the remaining pieces I need to finish up this hitch. While I was at the store, I also grabbed a little bit more material for another project that we're going to work on. I figured since I was welding yesterday, let's just continue with that theme, do a little bit more welding today. I obviously need the practice. All right, guys, so check it out. Now that it's all bolted back together, it's nice and snug. Put a little shim underneath it that's engaged pretty far and it's up against it so it can't come out. And I had to tap it with a hammer to get it to line up so it's in there good. Now there is absolutely zero wiggle in that hitch. Zero. I'd also like to say thank you to Kim Brennan, making suggestions for like a bifocal type cheater lens for the welding helmet. And I need a new welding helmet anyway. So I think that maybe next time I take on any big welding project, I may go look into that and possibly buy a new helmet and get a cheater lens in it. And hopefully that will help me out. And you're absolutely correct. One of my biggest problems is being able to see my puddle. I know how to control the welder. I know what to do. But in my practical application, it seems like I always have trouble seeing what I'm doing. And I've always struggled with that, always. Right, so now we can finally call this project, at this level anyways, done. I may completely redesign this hitch. Like I said, I want to add that plate to it. But as I sit here and think about it, I think I've come up with a much better design for a hitch. It'll be a lot of work because I'll have to cut out what's already here and start from scratch. But I think it will make it more than twice as strong. We'll see. I haven't made up my mind on that yet. All right, guys. So the next project on the list is far less critical, and it should be a lot easier, even though it's going to require a lot more welding, but it's not even stuff that has to be pretty. So here's what we got going on. These are stakes. They're 36 inches long. Here's a new one that I just bought at Lowe's today. And you see it's got a bunch of these small little holes in it. So now if you look at the second stake in here, you'll see we've got a nail going through it and to bend over. So what we've been doing is after we drive this into the ground, I'll wrap a strap around just below the nail and rehook it. And then the nail is what stops it from sliding off of the stake. Now, once they get mushroomed like this from being beat into the ground so many times, that'll help as well. But new stakes, you don't have that mushroom there. I hate to say it, but wrapping the strap around the stake is tedious, it's time consuming, and it doesn't always hold as good as we like to. So what I'm going to do is I went and bought 15 of these grade 5 nuts, and we're going to weld them to the stake, something like this. Now, when we set up at the rallies, it all depends on what kind of ground we're on how we fasten the awning down. So we're going to Panama City Beach here pretty soon, and we're going to be in the grass there. So using stakes is the best way to hold it down if we happen to get high winds. We also carry some water bottles with us that are 15 gallons each that we can fill up. And that gives us like 145 pounds, I think, of weight on each one. Don't quote me on that. I'm going by memory, not actual math. You know, but when you get places like Sturgis, where we're on asphalt, I'll actually bolt the feet down to the ground and I'll run stakes because we always get crazy winds out there every single time. In fact, I think last year was the first year we didn't endure a really nasty storm when we were there, which is pretty rare. Once I drive the stake into the ground, the hook that's on my strap that I'm using to anchor the awning anyways will just hook into the nut, and I don't have to tie anything around, and I can pull my strap tight, and it's pretty simple. In addition to that, when I'm trying to drive them out of the ground, which sometimes can be challenging, I have a little bit better of a spot to kind of grab and pick up on, or I can even tap lightly with a hammer on the bottom side of this nut and try to move it out of the ground. So as you can see, 9 of these stakes are pretty well used. I've had them for years. And then these 6 here I just bought this morning. And that's because I think 15 is a good number to have. So the awning that attaches to Goliath has 6 legs. The awning that attaches to the Renegade Stacker has 5 legs. So we've got 11 legs total. But sometimes, especially in high wind areas, I like to throw a couple extra stakes in on angles to keep things from racking side to side when the winds get really bad. So I figured I'd have those 4 extra stakes there just in case I want to do that. All right, guys, as you can see, pretty much using the same setup I had yesterday. I got my same plate out, so I got a good ground clamp in here. Now I am using this little piece of plate here because this is already mushroomed out, so it's holding this off of the table just a little bit. So that gets this fairly close to being centered on the stake. Once we get to the new stakes, I'll probably remove that piece. And you can see I've already sanded the stakes where I'm going to be welding to make sure they are clean from any rust. Some of you may have noticed I grabbed grade 5 3/4 nuts. The thread pitch doesn't matter because I'm not going to be threading it to anything. But 3/4 gives me enough room to hook almost every style of strap hook that I've got in my possession. And as far as the grade goes, you know, grade 5 is just cheaper than grade 8. And truth of the matter is, we're going to be welding them to these stakes. And really the only difference between a grade 5 and a grade 8 is the heat treating process that hardens it. And well, by welding them, something this small, there's no way to not heat it up enough that's going to ruin the heat treating process anyway. So there's no sense in spending the extra money for grade 8 when we're going to take that grade 8 back to a grade 5 anyways through the welding process. Not only that, but again, we're strapping down with nylon straps. Even a grade 5 bolt is going to be way stronger than the strap or the stitching that attaches it to the awning. So this is kind of overkill. We don't even have to make these welds that pretty. They don't even have to be super, super strong. The strap will be the weak point, or the awning will be the weak point in the whole thing. So anyway, let me get the welder set up and you can watch my terrible welding skills again. Now this material is considerably thicker than what we were working with yesterday, so I have bumped up the heat and the wire speed on the welder. So I'm going to do a test burn in on this one real quick, and then we'll see how it goes. It's actually much better. It even felt like it flowed out better. I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. Way better, but we need a little bit more practice. Well guys, there's the pile, and as you can see, some of these came out a whole lot better than welding yesterday. Not all of them came out this nice, but this was the last one I did. Not perfect, but it'll hold. It'll do what it needed to do. All right guys, we are now back up at Goliath. I brought all of those stakes back up here with me. I'm going to show you how I store them and how a simple project like this, welding the nuts to this, actually adds another project to my list. Let me show you. The stakes. But to store them, I have these brackets mounted to the side of the trailer, and I just drop the stakes in the bracket. Now there's one at the bottom to stop them from walking out, and one at the top to stop them from falling over. The spikes that are here right now, you see they all have ball bearings on them. And the spinner, those are actually for the flags, and they don't reach the floor. Well, that one does because it's falling through. So what I'm going to do is move these out of here, and I think I'm going to put some more of these brackets over here. Now these brackets are nothing special. I just pick them up at Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that. And they're really designed as a security bracket. I mean, you can slide a 2x4 through there. So if you wanted to secure a back door, you could put these on the door and on the wall on either side of the door. Slide a 2x4 through, and then somebody can't open and close the door. But they work well for this application. However, I just added 6 more of them, so there's not enough room for them to fit. And I will move all the flag spikes over here, but I'll put them lower so they actually rest on the ground and are held in as they should be. And then hopefully all 15 of these will fit over here. I have a feeling that all 15 won't, but we're gonna give it a try. Right about there looks like the right height. All right, that looks like it's gonna work pretty good. So now I'm gonna start loading these into this side and see if we can fit them all. Well guys, it looks like if I place them very carefully, I can fit 8 in each section of brackets. So 8 and 7 was all that I needed because I only have 15 of them. Anyway, relatively easy project, granted, but it's one more thing that we added that wasn't on the list. None of this was actually on the list. And I say that, it was on a list. I mean, I've been wanting to weld nuts to these stakes for years. I just never get around to doing it. However, it wasn't on the list of things that needed to be done today. However, because I was welding yesterday, I decided to just knock this one out. But look how much nicer and neater that looks and how clean and organized, and I can get to what I want. Things aren't buried. Those of you that know me fairly well know that I spend a lot of extra time and sometimes even a lot of extra money on setting things up so that things run smoothly and work efficiently, because it's just the way I like to operate. I don't like messiness. I don't like not being able to find what I want when I want it, or when I need it, even more importantly. Eventually I'll have it where everything in this trailer has its place and everything will stay where it's supposed to be, even when we're traveling down the road. Everything will be easy to find and it'll all make sense, but it takes time to get to that point. We have to use it and decide where we want it, where it's not gonna be in the way of something else. And with this being still a fairly new trailer to us, I know we got it last summer, but it takes a number of shows and a number of configurations to figure out where I want to put everything. And this trailer is very different than the previous trailer. So it's like starting all over from scratch, but it's actually better. This is going to work out better in the long run once I get it all exactly the way I want it. All right guys, another dumb little project I'm working on today. I just made 3 of these brackets. So it's just a piece of aluminum angle. I cut them all 12 inches long and I kind of rounded the edges, make it a little bit nice. They're all pretty uniform. And I'm gonna screw these to the floor at a spot here to keep my jack in place. I keep this 22-ton jack here for changing tires on the side of the road, but it doesn't like to stay here. We're going down the road. So we're gonna put one right there. And put one in here. And then the third one is gonna go right back here. And once that's all screwed down, even going down the road, it should keep it all in place. And then we'll just tie the handle to the wall to keep it from wanting to fall away. Hopefully that'll work. Well guys, as you can see, the sun is starting to set behind me. I am running out of day. You know, I forgot to record the last couple of projects, but here we go. I'll show you what I started with. I showed you those brackets to hold that jack in place. I got all that done, and I'll show you what I did there. So there you can see the bracket screwed down there. There's one on the inside and one by the wheels. And then what I did is I took a cap to an Amsoil bottle and I screwed it to the wall. And I put the handle in the cap, put a tie down and a strap. So now it's nice and tight. Jack doesn't move. But if I need it, it's just as easy as pushing the lever here, releasing the strap, unhooking it, and now I can pull it out of there. I even cut the strap short and tied a knot in it so that it stays where I want it. And there's one more project I worked on that I didn't record. I had an issue here with the front wall of the trailer, down at the bottom where it meets the frame. It was actually separating from the frame a little bit. The fasteners that held it together, I guess, had rusted or broken or whatnot. And when we were in Daytona in the fall, I put some long 1/2-inch carriage bolts in there and drew it together. Well, apparently there's just enough movement there that the heads of the carriage bolts had kind of wallered out the inside of the wood on this front panel. So as a solution to it, I took some 5-inch by 2-inch, 1/4-inch thick angle iron. I cut a notch in it around the frame, drilled some holes in it, and then bolted it all back together. So now there's a steel plate and then the wood wall and then the inner frame, and just squeezed it all together. Let me get down on my knees and I'll show you. Lighting is not good, but here you go. There's the plate. Here we go. There. There's the plate. There's the carriage bolts going through. Same thing on the other side. I just notched it for the frame, bolted that in, and that'll work. Sounds like I definitely need to put the trailer batteries on charge. Winch sounded a little weak trying to get that up. All right, guys, I'm going to finish locking all this stuff up, and I'm going to go home for the night. So again, thank you for watching. And until the next time I see you, keep those engines running. The beautiful sunset back there.